Okay, it, we got a lot of time left, and um, I didn't want to just narrate this whole thing because I like to be able to speed up so that people can just watch and there's annotations on here. Let's get rid of some of this stuff. This is just some macros that are being shown. We can take that off. Macro, ICT macro. Um, these are going to be for all the TCM followers, overnight session, New York opening range, London close range. Um, we're going to take that off. Okay, we're just going to look at 4 hour. Okay. And so I have this previous high that was put in, came down here, ran up through this high, into this fair value gap, and really rejected, and then kind of came back up. This tagged the previous 1 a.m. high, 1 a.m. candle, and didn't close above it. This ran up into this order block, came back down, and then we have lower prices. Okay. So what I would like to see happen is I would like to see this candle open up, which it did. It created this wick, and then it runs up above this previous 1 a.m. high. Okay, now we just ran above it and we CSD'd this candle. Okay, we're going to sell another one. Now, stop loss management for this would be I'm going to put the stop loss at this high. If we run this high, then I have to reevaluate where does price want to go. Okay, let's note where I would like it to go. And where's our 1 o'clock? Bump, 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 boom. Right here. Okay, here's our 1 a.m. open. So let's just note that. Okay, a little imbalance at the top of that where it kind of jumped down. Okay, again, let's place our stop here. Buy stop of 2. Okay, because we have to understand that just because we're taking trades at certain levels, it's not it's not always what we would like to see price do or react in that area. Okay. A lot of times there's some real obvious ones, like this 9 o'clock run up into this important 9 a.m. open, and we get a CSD and follow through, and we run this low. Okay. That is a great trade. Even if you got in somewhere right here, okay, we have a previous 9 a.m. high that it runs, and turtle soups that, and then runs down and takes out, a couple lows. Okay, we get all the failure swings. So this to me was a great setup for the day. Um, every 4 hour candle is going to give us some sort of opportunity. So if we look at if this doesn't continue lower, we have a fair value gap down here. Okay, when I talk about looking at PD arrays, I'm talking about finding where are important pieces of price action that hasn't been tagged, where we can use our ICT concepts and look at, okay, well, what's happened? So we've had this high ran, all right, and typically after a high, we like to see some sort of retracement into a fair value gap. You have all this overlap right here. This was left open. Could that be a breakaway gap where you had this swing high right here and price moves away, and then we're not going to see price come back till after um, a more definitive move up and rebalance of part of this BISI. So right now we have candle bodies that have closed. This one isn't done yet. This is the highest it's closed. So because this high was taken and we had a decent rejection and a close below, so far these are the highest candle bodies. We didn't close above them. What I would like to see would be similar to a run above this previous 1 a.m. high. And then I would like to see price come down here. Either this fair value gap, that would be a great target, or the 1 a.m. low. We'll just mark this out, call that green. Okay, I'd like to move my buy stop just to the, what's the height of this right here? We got 508.75, 508. There we go. Okay. So if we're going to see lower prices, then again, here's a little imbalance. So we got two wicks that touch this imbalance right here. It's just like right here. See, little closes, hops down, and opens lower. Now we need to see some sort of follow through where we start closing this fair value gap. Oh, let's finish marking this. Let's get this over here. Okay, so we have these areas. Okay, let's mark the open. Okay, because we do have targets that we can run runners to. Okay, we'll match these up. See, so this wick down here, we still have a lot of time left, but the fact that it came down here to this candle and is wicking up, um, feels like to me that price is going to move higher. Okay, which is fine. We can always look back up here and we got a previous 1 a.m. low, previous 1 p.m. low. Okay, that would put us just above what appears to be this high and would close in this BISI with a candle body. And so if we start closing above this down close candle, then what I will do is I will see if we hit that upper target instead of going for a lower one. And this part is just understanding price action and knowing that when candles do certain things and close above certain candles and we don't get immediate follow through, then we need to switch our bias. Again, these are targets. This is like a roadmap of where this candle could possibly deliver. One AM open. Boom. 1 AM low. Boom. Gonna clone that. Jesus. Move that here. Okay, that's a 1 AM low. And if you notice, we're kind of in the middle of two 1 o'clock targets. Okay, if I was to take this and go all the way from this low to this low, we're like hovering just above equilibrium. Like this candle opened almost at 50%, wick down, came back up above this previous 1 AM high. Okay, so we're like in an area of premium and we're just kind of cruising right there. It's not making any moves. So far, no follow through really either direction. Just this big wick so far. All right, so what do we have so far on this 5-minute chart? We got a run up above this previous 1 AM high. Let's see if we can throw this on. Jesus, man. There we go. There we go. Just getting it on that 5-minute chart. Bump, 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 bump. Okay, previous 1 AM high. This candle closes above it. We have a down close that immediately closes below the open. This candle comes up, does not close above this open. This candle closes below this open. So far it's showing that we could have lower repricing. Now that doesn't mean that we don't get just a rebalance of this area. You know, price comes down here and then we get CSD of that candle, then price runs up. So again, it's OPEX. There's no reason to be putting any sort of big money or trying to make big plays on today. OPEX can be really high resistant, and I think today's demonstrated that just by looking at this 5-minute chart. Like tons of overlap, really not going anywhere. Um, you know, unless you're playing the highs and lows of the range, okay, then, and there's a couple timing plays like we talked about. right, so we have all our 1 a.m. 1 o'clock candles marked. So at least we have targets that are within. We're at 2,500, 563, 400. So if we get price that decides it wants to move upward, maybe we can capture 50 handles. If we get down to our open or fair value gap, we're looking at 80 handles. So there's a decent amount of handles at play here if we're looking for this candle to deliver to another 1 o'clock candle. One thing about the afternoon is we can kind of just range until the last 30, 40 minutes. And so that would like give us 40 minutes right now of just hanging out and not seeing much. Okay, we're going to hope for the sake of this video that we don't get that we get some sort of movement to one of these areas of interest. But we shall see. I tweeted 40 minutes ago now that I wanted to see price manipulate above 20,500, which was basically where this previous 1 a.m. high was sitting, and then continue lower. Again, what I want and what the market decides to do is not always going to align perfectly. However, if we are looking at previous candles and how they reacted in this area, the only thing we're doing is looking for what would be highly probable. And again, what do we got? We got a nine handle buy stop right now. So we're really not risking a lot for the possibility of 80 handles. So we're just below a 1 to 10 RR. So we're like a 1 to 9 RR about. Even if we end up targeting like this low up here, and price wants to continue to balance this SIBI, like I said, we could still hopefully capture 50 handles. So the fact that we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 candles now and nothing has followed through lower, it's kind of just been hanging out in this fair value gap. Okay, candle bodies. Respecting 50%. Okay, we do have a little imbalance right here. We do have this gap right here. Price will do this too, to where it'll gap, and then that allows it to have to come back and either fill it in, and by that I mean we get a candle that closes green up here, and then a down close candle to paint that the body through there. Okay. Or sometimes it just uses wicks. But these are all things we can annotate and watch for. We have a couple gaps down here where we don't have down close candles through. A couple down here as well. All right, so now we got a couple candle bodies that barely got into the fair value gap. This closed in here, and then this closes just out of it. But we got candle bodies in there, so I'm really going to watch for, are we going to get either speed down now and just continue this, or are we going to punch through and reject out of this fair value gap? I'd like to see something happen soon. Again, there's a lot of time left in this candle. This is the part where it can just become boring because it's high resistance. Okay, we have this wick down to 50%. We have 5-minute candles. We're not following through in any direction yet. We can talk about orders, and if we want to see a couple areas of take profit, here's a good one here too. Another kind of measuring spot if we're getting lower prices would be like 50% of this wick. So when we think about wicks, we think about them as just like this balanced price range, right? Like price came up and then came back down. We have this area where price is up and down through there. So let's just mark out what would we get if we okay. So we're looking at below this low. No follow through. Really, really boring price action. All right, I'm going to Set a buy limit right there, as that will be our first take profit. So that is 47 handles if we go that way. Mm-hmm. 30 seconds left. What are we doing, candle? Where are we going? Show us the way. Freaking just wiki price action. Look at all that. Look at all these wicks and all that overlap. Going nowhere. Okay. We have a candle that closes pretty much at CE. Um, this this still isn't like anything great in my opinion because I've seen price do this where it's high resistance and then you get a candle that closes like right at 50% and then the next candle, closes way above it and price starts moving back up. So right now we're just going to hold our buy stop where it is. Um, it's high resistance, so I will I will keep it where it's at as we want to let this trade play out, hopefully in the direction that we're looking for. The one interesting thing here too, with no fall through, is like we've had this kind of like flagging where we're constantly taking out the next low, but not truly moving anywhere, like directional like this. It's real tight, real stacked. So again, remember I said we could rebalance this area and then price could fire up. So as of now, the pattern that we are getting is down close candles are closing below up close candles, and up close candles are not closing above down close candles. So far, that is just signaling of price not wanting to move higher. Okay, what did we just tap? We just tapped the open of this candle that took us up to the previous 1 a.m. high. Let's see what kind of reaction we get from right there. Do we close through this candle? Okay. um, here's another little tidbit. There's some really good mentors out there that go over ranges and what you want to see when a range is going to hold or close. And so we created this BISI, and we're kind of rebalancing this BISI, right? Like here's a down close candle, then we get CSD after it runs, this liquidity down here, all these failure swings. And so now we have this open, that this candle just came and wicked this open. Remember I told you that opening prices are important. So this opening started this range up here to this previous 1 a.m. high. What would be ideal would be to get a candle that closes below this open. So now we have a down close candle that closes below this open. So we'll just highlight that. And that would indicate a better possibility for price to continue lower. Okay, so what did we just do by this closing of this candle? We just balanced this range. Okay, remember we talked about this way back here. We could balance this range and the next candle could completely close above that because this is now a balanced range. All right. We got 1355, 1455 if you're Eastern. Let's just look at, okay, we came back down, we ran the low of this macro, balanced this range. So this candle is going to be very important of what it does next. Do we immediately rebalance, which means we come back up here and then we wick down and continue lower? And now this candle is immediately rebalanced and lower price continue, or do we close and maybe close above these two candles signifying, okay, this area has now been balanced and we're going to continue with higher prices and hunt buy side liquidity? Again, the thing with this movement down is we were constantly running liquidity on the way down. Look at all these failure swings that fail to run the previous high minus this candle right here. Okay, so that could be a little concerning as far as wanting to run all this liquidity since this is now a balanced price range. And we shall see. Right now we're just talking through price action and and what I'm looking at and what the candles are actually doing and what this sort of price action means or what we want to see if we're going to get higher or lower prices. So what I get right here, this line is on here. Okay, so this is exactly what I'm talking about. You have a price range that gets balanced, then there is a possibility that price closes up here and then we see higher prices. So we just ran the high of the previous candle. Initially shows a rejection. Okay, another gap. Those are the gaps in price. Another gap right here. Closes, gaps down. Oh, if we get massive continuation, that's beautiful. Here's that up close and then boom, down close to fill in that gap that was created. If we get speed down, that'd be great. Imbalance here, so we watch how price reacts around this area. Okay, could be price just painting over this a little bit. We're not forcing anything. We're just allowing price to show us what it wants to do. We already have our targets that we would like. They're marked, they're ready. A lot of time left, but no displacement, no follow through as of yet. Again, we want to see price close below here. This is the start of this range, so we want to see price close below this range to signify lower prices. And if we get displacement through the lower part of this range, that would be ideal. FYI, I will be looking to do a YouTube live where you guys can ask questions and we'll just stay on the 4-hour chart and then we'll look at key areas and look at price action around it. Um, and that would be that'll be so you can ask questions and we can kind of go over it a little more in depth. I know there's people are asking a ton of questions. They're still a little confused as to what I'm looking at. Um, I know there are a few people that have used the indicator and they're pairing it with the system that they already have in place, and it's giving them really great entries and targets, and they're super stoked about it. And so they're doing well with the theory and the teachings, and it's really been helping them out. And there's some others that are still have questions about it. So I think the best thing would be to do a YouTube live, and we ask we create a forum for you to ask questions, and then we can just kind of deep dive. Everyone can hear the question, and the answer, and it's just easier than answering all these individual questions on Twitter and stuff like that. Okay, so we close above this range. I like to see price run into this candle and then give us some continuation lower. That's going to be ideal here for what we are looking at. What we don't want to see is this candle close anywhere near up here or above this candle. Um, Typically on other days, I might start stacking some orders where I would start adding like a contract here so I can spread them more out on the targets. Right now we just have two contracts. Um, and I'm just going to target the fair value gap. That's the first like major 1 a.m. target after this 50% here. So, and that's if we tap here or a little bit below and turtle soup this low or something, or turtle soup um, this buy stop's going to get moved up. And sometimes that happens. Sometimes there's days where price is just not going to completely go to certain targets on that candle that you want, like fully. And there's other days where you're going to get all the targets hit and more. And it'll run through all of them, and you'll be like, oh man, where's it going? And you'll start to look, and you'll like, while we're just letting this play out. Um, so this right here, I was targeting this low on this candle. Okay, well look at how many other. Okay, so you have this 9 o'clock candle, which open got nailed, low got nailed. Okay, high got nailed. It didn't just hit 50% of this, almost like an order block and reject. And then you got this open gets taken out, which is in this fair value gap. So if you start this fair value gap, this would be if you had runners, you'd start taking it down to this candle, finding out what PD arrays are around this candle. Oh, we have a giant fair value gap here. Where does that start? Oh, cool. So we can target maybe, you know, the opening. We can target the low of this. And then this candle kind of digs into this candle as well. So that's where you get multiple targets are getting hit. Um, and that happens. I think what was back here that I had something marked back here before. I don't like to keep a ton of markings on here just when like they're like here's an order block. So yeah, 5 o'clock open. I mean that was beautiful. Taking a rejection off that. You can target things like if you come back over here, order blocks being used again. Um, so God, this high resistance is just terrible to sit through and watch. Like, bro, give us one of these candles. Like, just now we closed back into the range. Just closed out of the range, came down here, no follow through. We closed back into the range. Just high resistance, liquidity. So the fact that we closed out of the range and then we kind of like come up in here and reject, and it would have been nice to come up in here and then really like close down here again and start like closing these candles. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run my buy stops like we'll go about what's the height of this candle right here? 95.75. Okay, there we go. So this candle came up and this candle came through and closed down. So if we start closing above, like I said, this candle, um, then that could be a signal for some higher pricing. Sorry, kind of jumping back and forth here. Um, but yeah, so some days you're going to have it where you just ain't going to get the follow through. It's not going to really target um, everything you want targeted. Some days you're going to get everything you want and more. So if you like to have runners, try to add one more than you normally do. And if that's micros, no big deal. But if you add one or two more micros, say you're taking the short up here, then at least you can um, have micros to target some of these other places, and then just bump your stop loss up to me, I look at it as if I'm gonna add a couple extra and those ones get stopped out, they were extra anyways. So if you're getting stopped out in profit, oh well. You added a couple extra bucks that um, you weren't gonna have. So and it allows you to see price play out. So nothing wrong with um, throwing a couple extra micros on there and having your definitive target like that, and then seeing what those couple micros can do. Because I mean, look at that's 525. You come down to this next 4 hour swing low, 383. So you're looking at 100 and or yeah, like 100 and 383, 140 handles. That's it's not bad for you got a couple extra micros on there, just as runners, and you're just casually moving your stop loss up. All right, two candles went by. We kind of close into the middle of what would be like an order block along the way. Um, However, we come back, kind of rebalance a little bit, and like we're not seeing some immediate follow through. So I have zero expectations of OPEX today. The movement's been really compacted, high resistance. So this is more of a talk through what I want to see, talking about price action, um, watching price action live, diving into some of this 4 hour time theory. I know a lot of people love using the 1 minute. Um, I like the 1 minute for entries, but I also think the 5 minute is a great time frame to pair up with the 4 hour. Like 5 minute structure is pretty decent structure. Give us some follow through, baby. The people are waiting. We're getting restless. We got things to do. Dude, this 1 minute's got to look like shit. Jesus. Look at the freaking just rebalancing, constantly rebalancing over and over and over. Up, back down, up, down, wick, 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 wicks, wicks. See what the old 15-minute looks like a barcode. Yeah, this is so balanced in here. This is pretty interesting too. We got a 15-minute fair value gap, and like we have yet to have a candle close into this fair value gap. We got this one wick all the way down here. This one wick all the way down. At least we're holding this fair value gap inverse. This would have been sick if we just freaking closed down here. All right, so again, we get a green candle that comes up, kind of gets halfway into this balanced area, and then we close below that candle. See if we get follow through moving down. I had no intentions of sitting down at the computer today and trading anything today. Again, this is for the people. The real question is how many people can patiently sit through a lecture and watch all this and listen to what's being talked about. I think a lot of people have a hard time with that. Um, Little background. I have watched um, ICT's core content, Market Maker series, Sniper series. I've watched all of that at least 3 times over. And some certain videos probably 5 to 6 times. And every time I've watched it, as he said in the past, he purposely has a lot of ranting and little gems that he just kind of throws out there in the middle of his teaching to see who's going to sit through 40 minutes of teaching and him giving his time. So I found it helpful. I found it really helpful for my development, understanding price action times, whatnot. Um, I know people have mixed feelings on like paid mentorships, paid discords. My opinion on that is if you find somebody, and there are some great teachers out there that really dive into some specifics of ICT and they do well, do really well trading that. if you need a path to follow and you want to learn how someone views the market and how they trade it, to me, it's like you're paying for an education, basically. So, um, I've paid for a couple, and the few I selected to pay for was well worth it to me. It really grew um, how I understood price action, how I understood ranges, dealing ranges, um, why candles print the way they do, and the currency merchant was probably one of my favorite paid mentorships. He really does a good job of just breaking down price action and using that dude's done some really in-depth studying um, with SIBO and the market and hours, and he's the reason why I switched over to Central Time. So, but again, to each their own. I'm not one of those people that say this is the only way to trade. Um, I think trading is very personal. I think trading is very different for people with different backgrounds, mindsets, um, and so everybody as an individual has to figure out and master their own psychology and their own self and find what works for them. And I think that's the only way to be successful. So I don't think that there's just one master way of trading. I know quite a few people that all use a very different skill set for trading and they do it very well. So, and there's a lot of information out there. If you feel yourself getting caught up in being the forever student where you're always just seeking new information and it's like the new shiny toy in front of you, um, that can hurt your trading as well because you have to take time to develop a system for how you want to trade. Like, if you like to trade fair value gaps, then you should do thousands of hours of back testing and creating probabilities of when trading fair value gaps are going to work well for you. Um, if you trade supply and demand areas, then all that stuff is just back testing. It's back testing when is this style of trading going to be at its best. And once you gather that data and those probabilities, then it's just a matter of patience. All right. So as you can see, just having such a hard time following through the bottom of this range. We close into it and then we get candles closing, or we close out of it, then we get candles closing into it. We close out of it and now we have this one ramping up. And remember we talked about this was the first candle that like closed just out of it. Well, if we start ramping up and closing above this candle, that to me um, would is going to negate this short, and that's why I have my buy stop set there in profit right now. Okay, so now that that's said and done, we ran these equal highs. I'm gonna get rid of this buy limit. Um, we're really like, here's the here's the opening price of this 1 p.m. candle, and look what we've done this whole time, just stayed within this range. Okay. We got 30 minutes left in the session before the market closes, and then we have the after hours for about an hour, and into the weekend we go. This could have been a retracement to run these equal highs. Okay, and just kind of runs this, and we could see it back down here. We could see it do what it's going to do. I'm I'm just not ecstatic about trading OPEX. I've done it before. It's very frustrating. There's a lot of big retracements like that. Um, so follow through happens way late after it's kind of done this. So your entries can be good, um, but it just takes patience to sit through. And to me, it's there's way better trades out there. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap up this video. Um, that was about, shoot, where are we at? How much time? I can't see where our time's at yet. Oh, here we go. This is about an hour and 10 minutes of talking. Majority of people aren't going to sit here and listen through the whole thing, which that's okay. Um, I enjoy talking through price action and what I like to see and marking out these areas of interest that are atypical for people to trade, because this is a whole different time theory that, again, through my all my studies I stumbled upon. I back tested it for a long time, like 8 months of just watching, back testing, seeing how these things play out, and it it was extremely repetitive day in and day out. So then I started to go public with it, start putting it out there, and um, some people dig it, some people have questions, some people don't understand it, some people are seeing it really well. So uh, till next time, hopefully a little part of this was helpful. Um, Again, I'm gonna try to do a YouTube live, and then we'll just see where at the end of the market, we'll see where this goes, and where we end up, and then we can all tweet something about my previous tweet of what I want to see, and it'll be well, I'll tweet what ended up happening after hours. Not sure if there's. Let's see what kind of earnings we have today. Um, Earnings whisper. God. Earnings whisper calendar. All right, let's just take a look. Friday. Gosh dang. Friday, do we have anything? Dun, 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 dun. Meh. Nothing crazy. Nothing that seems like it'll send price flying in one direction or the other. Okay, all good. All right, you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy the rest of your Friday, and we'll talk to you later.